Ladies, gentlemen, and young ladies, good evening, everyone. Be the welcome to this new conference, Geopolitics, dedicated to current events international. In the news global, China has just made tremble Washington. Washington is in total panic because China, who decided to arm himself as possible to become, so as not to say, the greatest world power, nuclear, China carried out a test of new nuclear missiles, ICBM, and the test was a complete success, as you can see in the picture. A total success, but it is a feat that surprises Westerners, a feat that scares enemies from China. And the worst part is that they all think that at any time China can transmit skills, capabilities, technologies of this missile to all its allies, including Iran, North Korea, Russia, and so on. So, as part of this conference, Geopolitics, this is current news that we are going to talk about. But before continue, accept as usual to share the video conference to the maximum in all possible groups. Always remember to click on subscribe if this is your first time to stumble upon my video conference. My name is Robert. So, it's a DCBM shot with a depressed trajectory. Yes, that's to say it is an unimaginable feat. We have the ICBMs that China has for a while now, but this time it's an ICBM with a trajectory depressed. Just understand, it means to say that it is a missile that dances in the air. Look at the picture. Yeah. What is the depressed trajectory? Trajectory is not straight. It is not straight ahead. When there is an obstacle 20, there are 20 of them there and then it goes on. And so, according to official information, Beijing confirms the success of a test of intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM. Missiles, ballistic missiles, intercontinental. These are the missiles which obviously have the ability to jump continents in the continent. So already the USA are in the viewfinder and, in the framework of this international rivalry, when these states produce, what are we going to call these weapons, nuclear, the capacity that these states equip this missile or this weapon is how to make sure that it could reach the United States of America and all the capitals European. Here is the real H. And so it was a total success, not a failure. That's what makes you panic, Washington. The particularity of this missile depressed trajectory, lower than usual, making early detection difficult. So there is only the depressed trajectory is very low. That means it can fly at low altitude. And yet often the radars that monitor the skies, and it is at high altitude. So the missile is capable of flying at low altitude with trajectories depressed or with a trajectory depressed. And this makes the missile is difficult to detect. So it's a stealth missile. So videos and pictures show a low altitude flight escaping the traditional radar, as you can see in picture. And what he means, what motivates China? What motivated China to put in place this ICBM missile, intercontinental? It's a missile ballistic. The objective is to strengthen its strategic deterrence against United States and NATO. We had just say, in the introduction to this conference, strengthen deterrence. America has not fear than a state that has nuclear power. At worst, if you have nuclear power, you have nuclear power. You have to be at measure to be able to inform the West that you are ready to use this nuclear at any time, as Russia has just do elsewhere. And so the other thing is that, and there is incorporation of a hypersonic glider inside of this missile, and what obviously associated with extreme speed gives an increased missile maneuverability. That is the glider, that is the one. It is this system which allows missiles to hover in the air. It is what I call missiles in blood. And when these missiles pass, these missiles leave traces. That's why you see like that. No, it's not a drawing. This is not a drone show. This is not a fair show either. No, it is an extremely dangerous missile which is heading towards a depressed trajectory. And so this gives a capacity, the incorporation of the glider gives a capacity high to the missiles to bypass the anti-missile shields. So it's a very political signal strong that Beijing sends to the West. Beijing wants to prove it is catching up Moscow and Washington in the race hypersonics, a key area of the 21st century since Beijing remained in delay. Yeah, but lately, Pekin has decided to take flight. So therefore, here is the situation. What are the international repercussions of this test which has just been realized? It must be said already that the global nuclear balance is jostled. Yes, China is bustling each other to say, I want my place, I must be at the heart of the world's most powerful nuclear power spheres. So Washington and Tokyo see in this test a direct threat to the peaceful. Air bases in the range force in Japan and South Korea are targeted everywhere, where the bases American are at the level of the Indo-Pacific. These American bases are now directly threatened, whether at Japan or etc., and that's why they see this very badly. But for Europe, and this widens the shadow of Chinese nuclear power. Beijing is no more only a regional power, but a global player capable of striking everywhere. So that's scary. Europe is increasingly respecting the China, but that's what it's all about. The arms race is on. That's it. So the immediate impact on the American strategy right now, America must review its strategy and they must strengthen their anti-missile defense system that we call THAAD, the Terminal Height Altitude Area Defense. The type of system anti-missile is a system that is who can detect at high altitude because missiles are supposed to fly at high altitude. And so to thwart this, China did a missile that is capable of flying at altitude pass. America must therefore see you again. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that was the front page of international news. Thank you for the share as much as possible. I'll get back to you soon with news, and it was the voice of your humble servant, the Samurai.